I'm live. Henry McClure live here in the Glass Houses studio. I wanted some of my campaign contributors to um, see what we've done here, know that we've got some new equipment. We appreciate your contributions. I'm going to go live on Facebook simultaneously. We're going to simulcast. All right, here we go. That tastes good. Cold water, pure life water. Hey, Henry McClure live here, coming to you live from the Glass Houses studios. Um, Also, some of the upgrades in the studio have been paid for by Shawnee County First, Henry McClure Treasurer. Let's just say this is a campaign um, ad. We're talking about Topeka. We're talking about the Topeka factor without my friend, the white hat, Marshall Black Lung Barber. You know, what we need to do today is not forget about Earl McIntosh. Earl McIntosh can't fade away into the good night. We need to bring Earl McIntosh to the forefront of our mind and his 5,400 uh, petitioners. 5,400 people took time to sign that petition. Think about that for a minute. 5,400 Topekans took time. And I'm telling you, as soon as I get my Whataburger commission, I'm, hey, somebody calling in. I wonder who it could be. Oh, it's Bianca Bentley on. Hey, you're live on the Henry McClure show. What are you what are you up to tonight? Well, I'm making a show. I'm gonna I know you don't like being on the air, but I will call you just as soon as I put this one in the can. It's gonna be a very short show. I love you. I'm not so sure she doesn't mind being on. I shouldn't cut her short. She's going out to see her sister, Jade, who's a July 13th baby. I remember I remember when I got married, Jade was like the bonus baby. So I waited. I thought I was mature enough when I got married. But anyway, having a stepdaughter from the get-go was pretty cool. Jade's a really cool person, and I'm glad that her and her sister get to spend some time together. Uh, Bl- Earl McIntosh. Earl McIntosh said he would run for uh, the district where Neil Dobler sits, and I think it's really important. I think it's more important than we know that we really need to change. We got to play some musical chairs. And I hate to say it this way, but Neil Dobler's been around too long to do any good. If that makes sense, in the government. When I first moved back, he was in public works, and I enjoyed uh, knowing him and Mike Tepley. And I think Neil was pretty decent interim city manager. What I liked about Neil the best was he didn't want to be city manager. And that's the guy you want in the city manager's job. Uh, there was some deficiencies with not recording some of the agreements and the development agreement and the TIF agreement, which later on there were consequences on that. Um, Sometimes you got to follow the money, right? How many jobs always go to Bartlett and West? I don't know. So let's leave Neil out of the picture for a while here, uh, because from a lot of standpoints, he is the most qualified. Uh, oh, I got a text from Tim Rencher. I sent him a note thanking him for his article. Pretty fair. But we all need to become as qualified as Neil with what's going on by attending the meetings, by reading the reports, by studying the budgets. We can all be as smart as Neil with some time and effort. And that's a little bit of a reach when you really dig under the fingernails because he's definitely the head of the council and has the most working knowledge of anybody on that council. And I think sometimes he serves as a voice of reason, but I just think he's too far entrenched in the Greater Topeka Chamber of Commerce and Go Topeka. And I'm just not so. I'm just not so sure how hard he wants to work. I really think that it's criminal what has happened over the last decade with Jetto, and Neil Dobler sits on the council and on Jetto from time to time. But for a decade, Neil's watched. Neil has not come up with the solution to retire the problem from Lawrence Bay. That's his duty. And if you can't do it in a decade, it's time to go away. The real issue is in the treasurer's role and the county commissioner's role. If you talk to Larry Maw, he will tell you systematically how the treasurer got neutered from collecting the taxes and deciding what taxes went up for auction. But and we need to take that away from the county commissioners. The county commissioners are not following policy, and you can't speculate whether the properties will sell or not. That's not policy. There's a policy of when they go up to auction. The county commissioners are not following that policy, and for that, you've got to throw every one of the county commissioners out of office. Every one of them. They've not lived up to collecting back taxes. They've not followed policy. They're irresponsible when it comes to Jetto. So if we just, I really don't know how an incumbent gets elected. And man, whoever texted Blackie calling me and him shithole candidates, well, we're not shithole candidates. We are candidates that want to do something different. We want to we want to have zero-based budgeting. We want to work harder. I don't want to hire consultants. There's $100,000 in the budget for our human resources to um, study salaries. So we're going to spend $100,000 to tell everybody we need to give them a raise. Well, we can do that ourselves and save the 100 grand. Yeah, I mean, you automatically got 100 grand to spread around. So, and number one, first and foremost, Sheriff Hill. We've got to give Sheriff Hill the tools to make this place safe. Sheriff Hill's been down at the border. He sees what's going on. So now there's a question whether or not there was a border czar, but there never was a border czar. There never was Homeland Security. Mayorkas should be thrown out. But sometime if you run into Brian Hill, talk to him about what he saw at the border, and I'm telling you, it will grow hair. You will want to have. Uh, we got to make sure that his budget, and he needs to get a little more capital. And so I'm going to talk briefly. I'm going to talk real briefly about the white. We've been calling it the white elephant for years, but the old hotel, and it sat there fallow for a long time. And the two young ladies that bought that had big dreams and aspirations. And I love people like that. I love people with vision. And if you look at the drawings and everything they did, their heart was in the right place. It just wasn't it just wasn't the place for it. I don't feel unsafe being down there by the jail. At some point in time, you got to quit hating everything. "Oh, I hate that, hate that, hate that." You can hate your community to death. But one thing, if you ever talk to a young lady, uh, Carrie Higgins in this town, and many have talked about creating like a one-stop shop for uh, social services, basically, and putting that in that hotel. We got to figure out, somebody's got to make a deal with the two young ladies. We got to pay them fair market. That concrete's worth a lot of money. The structural steel. Kenny Blair of CFNS he toured the property with myself and Bill Rapon. I was trying to get Brian Cole to look at it, and the money that Brian's spending on the mental health facility. See, these guys, you guys, people don't spend money in government like it's their own. You've got to get an ROI. You got to have a return on the investment. And renovations, we were always better off at Macerich buying malls and renovating them instead. And so that was the difference between Mel Simon and Mace Siegel. Mace first got off being a strip center developer in the early 60s, building discount department stores in the Midwest, from the New York people that wanted to expand into the Midwest. You got to think about shopping centers and the evolution of shopping centers. The Country Club Plaza was the first organized shopping center in the country. I mean, you could say, well, downtowns are organized shopping center, but no, the Country Club Plaza was really the first organized shopping center mall type project. And the evolution of the mall business to me is very fascinating. In fact, I want to get my niece, my grandniece actually, Quince in here to help write a curriculum, because I'd like to become an adjunct professor over at Washburn and give away this knowledge, this real estate knowledge. I think there's a lot of because if you understand the patterns and know history, it will repeat itself. So uh, retail has always been cyclical, but we're in the perfect storm of internet versus brick and mortar versus a reset from the government to help, just to really make big business, the very large businesses, um, succeed in crushing the small business owners. Nobody has the power in government to decide what individual is essential or not. Hey, Real estate agents and brokers, we were essential, I can tell you that. So I never celebrated COVID. I've never really had a flu shot to my knowledge. I can't think of a time I've even gotten a flu shot in my whole life. Being unvaccinated and unapologetic about it is fine with me. But I tell you, as a I know that when you govern, you have to make hard choices. But I could see through this reset and this COVID thing, and given the opportunity to make the final decision, I wouldn't have locked you down or made you wear masks. They hadn't had time to even study these vaccines. I mean, if you think, look at how much time went into the polio vaccine. I think, how long did Pasteur study that? But this whole thing was all rushed and uh, overnight. One of my best blog posts, I think, on one of my blogs is called "I Told You So." It's um, it's a homemade remedy for hydroxychloroquine, and it's basically boiling uh, lemons, oranges, and grapefruit, and getting the peels and all this stuff. And anyway, a friend of mine took it and he got better in 2 days. So always covering a lot of ground. Voting's going on today. Oh, I did get my financial report filed on time. Really had till midnight. What a time. I do want to say one thing. Do want to comment one thing about the difference between Republicans and Democrats as far as party politics go. And I appreciate the Democrats as far as picking their winners today. Laura Kelly feels it's time for Vic Miller to retire and time for Patrick Schmidt to rise to the occasion. Young man, go getter. And at Patrick's fundraising party the other day that Joan Wagner put, it was so nice to see her. I will be putting a sign in her yard when it comes to Henry McClure live. you know, I could have actually put that on the ballot, but anyway, um, Patrick had John Carlin, Jim Slattery. Jim Slattery's a big lobbyist. Jim Slattery was in the real estate business when I got started when I was 19. Uh, Joan Wagner was there. There were a lot of nice Democrats came to encourage Patrick, and I think the Republican Party ought to be doing the same thing for my friend Tyler Weibel. Tyler's opponent is she's going to expand Medicaid, and she says I can be a Republican and not support Donald J. Trump. Well, that's not what the party thinks. That's not what I think personally. I'm going to vote for Donald J. Trump. We'll see whoever he runs against, because it just seems like the 15 million people that voted for JoJo now, just, is democracy really in play for those 15 million? But you know something? That's none of my business. But I will tell the Republicans out there, we ought to be more inviting. And to the person that told me I had to talk about myself instead, I wanted to promote Brett Blackburn at one of these events the other day. I don't have a primary. Also, too, hey, Aaron Mays, Brett Blackburn, let's get that debate going, baby. Well, I've had enough. Like the other day, I was talking to the county commission, and I'm just looking at, except Aaron. Aaron always like looks at me because I think I respect the fact that he doesn't know. He's always wondering what's this guy going to say next. Um, Cook always looks like I don't know, like that coffee just hit him and he needs to get to the restroom. And Bill, I don't know what he's doing. He's getting texts from his mom, but I didn't feel any any energy from these guys. And so I just said, "Hey, I'm out of gas." I was talking to him the other day. But really, if you and this is what it comes down to, we're such a small little town. If is Kevin Cook a bad guy? Just I just don't think he's a qualified or good county commissioner. I don't even know how good a lawyer is, but he's a family man, goes to church. I'm reaching here trying to figure out something nice to say. And Aaron's a personable guy, but during his speech, all he did was start telling us what the county does. He doesn't really say anything. And, Bill's ready to retire. We shouldn't be building a saloon over in the Ward Mead area. Well, if the organizer of the lunch with Kyle McNorton's watching, I'll probably attend that affair. I will talk to my people. I'm gonna sign off by thanking Tim Rencher. There's so much more to behind this story, but I think he gave me a fair and balanced shot. I appreciate. I do think there's more news that we can talk about in the town. I shouldn't be the only one talking about Go Topeka and the mismanagement of the Greater Topeka Partnership. Look, we got too many eggs in one basket. We can move the visit Topeka over to the Expo Center. And if I have to personally, I can teach a guy how to run it. I can coordinate the events. I can figure out how to keep the building up and going. I'm not going to put on a work belt, but think about this real quick. West Ridge Mall is 1.3 million feet plus or minus. At one time, I had the equivalent of 5 West Ridges under my belt every day. Well, not under the belt, but you know what I mean, under my responsibility when I worked for the Mace Rich Company. You had to make all the deals. You had to, and really kind of what the leasing people had to do. Sometimes we were not liked by management because everything that we looked at that was wrong, that made it harder for me to do the leasing. And Topeka doesn't look at it that way. Well, you know what? If we had the roads all fixed, when people came to tour the town, well, they might like it better. When tourists would come, they go, wow, this is a pretty neat town. When it comes to looking at the fleet maintenance and the shocks and the tires, well, you know something? Maybe we ought to go down to Fifth Street between 8th Street on Adams and repair it. It's knocking all our wheels, the alignments. We don't think like a farmer. And this is what we're doing right now is we're rotating the crops. We're bringing in more hair. The bald guys are out, hair and hairy guys are coming back in. Give me a head with hair, long, beautiful hair. All right. I'm not going to sing any more than that, but I am going to tell you one thing real quick. If nobody's told you they love you, I love you all. Have a good night. YouTube, you got a little extra shot.